Tonight, Malawi's political scene has turned into a drama even Nollywood would envy, because apparently demons have entered politics. Former President Peter Mutharika has made explosive claims of a demonic plan designed to destroy the Malawi Congress Party from within. And just when we thought that was enough, boom! Former NBC boss George Kasakula was forced to apologize on live TV like a scene straight out of a political thriller. So what exactly is this demonic plan? Who's behind it? And why is everyone in Lilongwe whispering about it like it's a national secret? Stay with me, because we're breaking down 10 jaw-dropping facts behind Malawi's most talked-about political showdown. Peter Mutharika's comeback to power after the 2025 elections didn't just make headlines. It reopened old wounds and reignited political rivalries that Malawi thought it had buried. Standing before a crowd of loyal supporters, he claimed that unseen forces are plotting to destroy the MCP from within. Now, Malawians are no strangers to dramatic speeches, but this one was different. Mutharika's choice of words, demonic plan, wasn't just for effect. It was symbolic, almost spiritual, meant to position him as the righteous defender of the nation's soul. In Malawian culture, invoking demonic imagery is serious business. It's not a casual metaphor. It triggers both fear and fascination. Political analysts argue that Mutharika was using this language as a strategic framing, a way to portray MCP's chaos as an external spiritual attack instead of internal failure. Whether genius or manipulation, it worked. Overnight, talk of corruption or poor governance faded into whispers about dark forces. Now, the big question was, who lit this fire? Fire transition hook. Because if demons are moving through politics, someone's clearly holding the matches, and it might not be who you think. One after another, prominent figures inside the Malawi Congress Party began walking out, and not quietly. Some cited poor leadership, others frustration and lack of direction. The resignations hit hard, shaking the party's foundations. Within weeks, key strategists and long-serving members announced they were leaving the party entirely. Mutharika quickly pointed to this wave of exits as evidence of the demonic plan he warned about, claiming it was all part of an organized attempt to crush opposition unity. But insiders told a different story. They said MCP was simply suffering from internal cracks that had been ignored for too long: weak communication, infighting, and lost trust. Still, the optics played right into Mutharika's hands. The man knew how to turn chaos into narrative. For ordinary Malawians watching the drama unfold, the line between truth and strategy began to blur. Was it political sabotage or self-destruction disguised as spiritual warfare? Fire transition hook. While MCP was busy losing its people, another man was losing his seat, live on national television. George Kasakula's story shocked even the most hardened journalists. The former Director General of Malawi Broadcasting Corporation was allegedly confronted by a group of men, forced to clear his office, and then, in what many call one of the most humiliating moments in Malawian media history, made to apologize live on TV to Mutharika himself. In the apology, Kasakula admitted that during Mutharika's previous term, NBC sometimes went too far in its criticism, but the scene felt less like remorse and more like political theater. Many believe that apology wasn't voluntary, it was coerced. Civil society organizations immediately condemned the incident, calling it an attack on media freedom. To some, it was a symbolic warning. Don't bite the hand that feeds you, or you'll be forced to say sorry. In the court of public opinion, Mutharika came off powerful. Kasakula came off crushed. Fire transition hook. And when journalists start apologizing on live TV, you know something bigger and darker is moving behind the curtains.
The Kasakula saga didn't end there. It sent shockwaves through Malawi's entire journalism community. Reporters began to whisper, editors started second-guessing, and NBC's newsroom reportedly fell into a state of silence and fear. Journalists' unions and human rights groups described it as a, quote, dark moment for Malawi's democracy. Civic activists warned that such displays of intimidation could silence watchdog voices across the country. In the weeks that followed, at least 2 prominent journalists reported receiving anonymous threats. Others quietly began avoiding politically sensitive topics. The chilling message was received loud and clear: challenge authority and you might be next. Meanwhile, Mutharika's supporters argued the apology was voluntary and a step toward reconciliation, but few believed it. To most, it felt like a warning disguised as forgiveness, a public cleansing ritual for daring to criticize power. And that's when analysts started asking, what kind of leader uses demons and fear in the same breath? Let's talk about the psychology behind Mutharika's message. Mutharika's use of the word demonic wasn't random, it was calculated. In a deeply religious nation like Malawi, the word carries spiritual weight. It instantly divides people into believers and skeptics, loyalists and critics. By calling himself the one who can see through unseen forces, Mutharika positioned himself as Malawi's guardian, not just politically, but morally. It's an emotional tactic, a classic blend of fear and faith that locks supporters into loyalty. Political experts call this spiritual framing. It converts political conflict into a moral battle. And once the public sees a leader as fighting evil, questioning him feels almost sinful. Clever, right? But while it built devotion among his base, it also raised eyebrows across the region. Was Mutharika genuinely worried about a supernatural attack, or was he engineering a narrative to consolidate control? Because, as every Malawian knows, timing is everything, and Mutharika's timing, almost too perfect. Look closely at the timeline, and it's hard not to notice the precision. The MCP resignations, Kasakula's apology, and Mutharika's fiery speech all unfolded within weeks of each other. Coincidence? Hardly. Political insiders suspect a well-coordinated playbook, a strategy meant to overwhelm the opposition and reassert dominance. Mutharika's camp, of course, denies any orchestration, but the pattern feels deliberate. Weaken MCP from inside, shake the media, and control the narrative. Timing is everything in politics, and by the time MCP realized what was happening, the damage was already public, visible, and demoralizing. For the average Malawian, this looked like a masterclass in political timing, one that turned instability into an art form. By luck or strategy, the result was the same: a rattled opposition, a confident DPP, and a public that couldn't tell where coincidence ended and manipulation began. But even the cleverest play needs an audience, and critics were more than ready to shout from the sidelines. Mutharika's opponents didn't waste time. They dismissed his demonic plan as pure political theater, dramatic storytelling meant to distract from real issues. They accused him of turning the nation's struggles into supernatural soap operas. Opposition figures argued that Malawi's real demons were corruption, poverty, and unemployment, not invisible forces. They said the speech was a brilliant smokescreen, designed to draw attention away from pressing problems and make Mutharika look like the savior once again. Even some neutral commentators said the rhetoric was dangerous, fueling fear and division at a time when the country needed calm. But whether you believed him or not, one thing was clear: Mutharika had hijacked the national conversation. And while politicians argued and journalists whispered, the fear started spreading faster than wildfire. By now, fear had seeped into Malawi's political bloodstream. Journalists were walking on eggshells, party insiders were watching their backs, and critics were speaking in coded language. This was more than paranoia. It was a survival instinct. Civic groups said the Kasakula effect was real, the belief that anyone could be next. Some media houses quietly toned down coverage of sensitive topics. Others started self-censoring altogether.
What began as a political metaphor had turned into a national mood, one of tension, caution, and whispered conversations. Even social media users began noticing. Posts about politics suddenly became rarer, safer, sanitized. And while politicians argued and journalists whispered, the fear started spreading faster than wildfire. But not everyone was ready to surrender. Inside MCP, a few brave souls were quietly planning their own redemption arc. Inside MCP, despair and determination wrestled for control. Some members called the ongoing crisis the party's lowest point. Others, however, believed it was a test of resilience. A new generation of members began calling for renewal, stronger leadership, more grassroots connection, and less internal drama. They saw opportunity in chaos. If we can survive this, one insider was quoted saying, we can rebuild something stronger. Still, the defections hurt. Each resignation chipped away at morale, but hope remained. After all, Malawian politics has a long memory, and comebacks are never impossible. The question was simple. Could MCP rise like a phoenix, or would it fade into history as Mutharika's demonic plan claimed victory? Before we close, let's face the ultimate question. Is this demonic plan real, or just political magic dressed in biblical language? At this point, even Malawians who don't follow politics are asking, is this demonic plan real or rhetorical? Evidence remains thin, but its impact unmistakable. Fear has grown, the opposition has weakened, the media is cautious, and Mutharika stands tall, a leader who turned metaphor into momentum. Some analysts say it's less about demons and more about dominance, an artful narrative designed to stir loyalty and smother dissent. Whether it's genius or manipulation, the outcome is the same. Mutharika wins the psychological war. Malawi now stands at a political crossroads between courage and control, between truth and propaganda. And as every Malawian knows, it's not the loudest voice that wins, but the one that commands belief. So, what do you think? Is this demonic plan real or just performing political magic with demonic flair? Whatever side you're on, this story is far from over. Drop your thoughts in the comments, but remember, keep it bold, keep it smart, and keep it Malawian. And if you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe to Global Pulse News, and share this report with your friends. Because here, we don't just deliver headlines, we decode them. Until next time, I'm your host signing off, reminding you, in Malawian politics, truth might bend, but it never breaks, unless it's forced to apologize on live TV.